Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Coffee, where in today's episode we're going to be taking a look at a claim that Ezra Bridger is being cast for a live-action role. We're going to take a look at the legitimacy of this, and we're going to analyze it in depth with me, here today on Star Wars Coffee. Normally I typically stay away from certain things like this about casting on live action stuff from sources that aren't entirely credible. So what we're going to do is and the only reason we're doing this, by the way, is because you guys have asked me to do so, and I want to cover what you guys want me to cover. So that is why we're going to be covering this today. We're going to take a look at an article from Screen Rant by Anna Dumarog saying, Star Wars, Disney reportedly casting live action Ezra for post-Rebels show. Disney and Lucasfilm are reportedly casting for a live-action version of Ezra Bridger from Star Wars Rebels for an unnamed Disney Plus series. Now, my contention on this has always been that it's likely that Ezra would appear in a Star Wars Rebels sequel series. We've covered that at this point extensively on the channel. And what we have seen is the likelihood that this is an animated series. And the reason I say that, and I'm already very skeptical of this, and you can tell from my tone if you're a typical viewer, is that I'm very skeptical of this claim, considering Star Wars, especially Disney Star Wars, has always had an animated series going at this point, of which they don't have now that the Clone Wars Season 7 has ended. So in order for something to fill that void, the likelihood would be a Rebels sequel series, okay? So in 2008 we had the Clone Wars, then we had Rebels, then we had the Resistance, then we got Season 7 of the Clone Wars, and now we have nothing. So while we have the Mandalorian Gallery, that's the only Star Wars TV coming out right now up until fall. So I would expect an announcement of a Star Wars Rebels sequel series to come at Star Wars Celebration, which still has not been canceled. So we're taking a look at this article by Screen Rant. So casting for a live-action Ezra Bridger for Star Wars Rebels has reportedly begun. Over the last several weeks, Star Wars appears to be transitioning some of its animated characters to live action, given reports of Rosario Dawson being cast as live-action Ahsoka Tano and Katie Sackhoff as Bo-Katan. Both characters are expected to appear in The Mandalorian Season 2, set to debut this October on Disney+. If this new information comes to fruition, Ezra will eventually join them on the streaming service, all about potentially in a different series. So, this whole thing about Rosario Dawson and Katie Sackhoff, those are from much more credible outlets with journalists who have a bigger reputation to lose than somebody over at the Illuminati, which is where this event initially came from. And so I'm less inclined to believe something from a less proven track record than I am something from a more proven track record, obviously. So, continuing on, debuting in 2014 on Disney XD, Rebels created by Dave Filoni featured an all-new cast of characters, focusing primarily on a small band of freedom fighters known as the Ghost Crew. So this essentially just gives us background on who Ezra is, and says that Ezra and Thrawn survived as confirmed by Dave Filoni at the end of Rebels, which we already knew that. So, here's where it gets to the claim about Ezra live-action casting. Now fans may finally learn what happened to Ezra after his disappearance at the end of Rebels, as a new report from the Illuminati claims Lucasfilm is looking to cast a live-action version of the character. According to their report, this will be for an upcoming Disney Plus show and not The Mandalorian. Based on the casting description, the studio is looking for a male actor between ages 30 and 40. Lucasfilm is also specifically looking for actors of Asian descent, but is open to seeing auditions from Indian, Latino, or Middle Eastern performers. It's worth noting that this isn't official news from Lucasfilm. It's best to treat it with a healthy dose of salt. Yeah, definitely treat it with a healthy dose of salt. As stated here, the Illuminati, I'm not familiar with them enough to have a credible track record of them. I know who they are. I know that they have talked about Star Wars before. However, some of the Star Wars content that they have put out in past experience is typically stuff about Clone Wars reunions and theories about Palpatine, Cassian Andor, a new exciting female lead to Star Wars. So they've claimed to had some of these exclusives before, and especially on the Cassian Andor one, I never reported on that because that was never backed up by anybody else, and I was not having any. I didn't want to talk about that, especially not having a legitimate, more, well-known source back that up. So that's why I'm only commenting on this again, because you guys have asked me to do so. So, continuing on, given the age range provided for the interested actors, the unknown project in which live-action Ezra could appear would be set after the events of Return of the Jedi. For context, The Mandalorian takes place 5 years after the fall of the Empire. Yes, there's a reason for this, why they're focusing on the end of the Empire. They have the High Republic, which is pre-prequels, right? And now we have the sequels. We still have the original trilogy, and we have a 30-year gap of lore to fill in there. So it's no surprise that this is where they would be wanting to target things like this. Again, I still think that this is for an animated series. Continuing on, rumor has it that Ahsoka series is also coming to Disney Plus in live action, which could be very well the debut of a live action Ezra. Otherwise, the casting might be for something entirely unknown at this point. So, Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka is all but confirmed officially. I expect that announcement again at Star Wars Celebration this year, which has still not been cancelled. And if there is going to be some type of Ezra, I would expect that to be where it would take place if it is indeed in live action. Otherwise, my bets are still hedging on the sequel series being an animated show. So that's a quick look at this whole Ezra being cast in live action. Not too willing to jump on the train and say that this is true or anything. I still think that the most likely place you see Ezra again is in a Star Wars Rebels sequel series, which I believe will be animated and announced at Star Wars Celebration, and probably coming at some point this fall as well, or next spring, depending on how they want to stagger The Mandalorian and their next Star Wars content. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching. May God bless you, and the Force be with you always. If you enjoyed this episode, and frankly, even if you didn't, don't forget to subscribe. Do it! And if you want to help spread the word, please give this video a thumbs up and tell your friends to subscribe. Please check out the official Star Wars Coffee merchandise, and don't forget to check out all of the content playlists on this channel, including The Rise of Skywalker, The Mandalorian, and much more.